Hello, Year 5s, and welcome to your maths lesson. Please make sure that you have everything ready. You will need a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil so that you can do your starter and any bit of working out when we're looking at the inputs, all right? So today we're going to be doing, looking at finding equivalent fractions, which is going to be our learning objective for today. And before we get going with that, I would like you to do your fast 5 starter for me, which means doing it under 5 minutes. Is a bit of a challenge, and a lot of this today is actually mental calculations. So see how you do. So pause the video now and have a go. Right, let's go. First one, nice and easy. 7 times 8 is 56. And how I remember it's 56, because sometimes we get a little bit confused about this one, is I remember 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, the next one is rounding to 1 decimal place. Now, last week we looked at rounding and we looked at decimals, and a lot of you did really well, and some of you made very silly mistakes. And the silly mistakes you were making, a lot of it was explained in the video, which then suggests to me that I'm not sure if you're watching the video very carefully. So those children who've really struggled with it when they did their quiz, will you please make sure that when you are doing your video, watching the videos, that you're doing the input questions, okay? So that you are hopefully not going to make those same silly mistakes as the weeks go on. Right, because I want 1 decimal place, it means I only want 1 digit after the decimal. Now, many of you who made the silly mistake were giving me 2 numbers after the decimal, okay? And the decimal point is this little dot here, and so I only want 1 decimal place afterwards. So I'm going to go and find the number, which is the 4, because I want 1 decimal place. So 1 decimal place would be 1 digit after decimal, and I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to underline the number next door. Now, this number tells me if I'm going to round up or if I'm going to leave it the same. Now, 5 is going to round up, so I'm going to round up this number 4 to 5. And then I do not put a 0 here. A lot of you who made the silly mistakes put a 0. If you put a 0 there, you have given me 2 digits. I only want 1 digit after the decimal. So I'm going to put my decimal, and then everything to the left, I leave exactly the same. Okay, so 76.5, and I've got 1 decimal place after the decimal point. Okay, it's only 1 digit. Okay, so please, if you have been making those silly mistakes, make sure you're paying attention. Right, I'm doing a mental calculation here. You could have done your vertical method. However, I'm going to look at these two. I'm going to look at the tens. I'm going to say, right, 9 plus 3 is 12. And then I'm left with this 8, 128. Right, again, another mental calculation. 6 times 7 is 42. So I write 42. And now how many zeros do I add? I've got 2 zeros. So I'm going to add 2 zeros to my answer. Okay, nice and easy. And the last one, we did quite a few of these last week as well with our decimals, and we're going to be subtracting. So I'm going to write the number exactly how it appears. Again, some of you were not doing it exactly and you're putting zeros in between. Do not put a 0 in between the digits. Okay, write it exactly the same. And 32. Now 32 is a whole number. So if we have a whole number, we need to put in the decimal at the end, and then we can put the placeholder here where the gap is. Right, and I'm going to be subtracting, so I'm going to highlight that. So I'll make sure that I'm doing the right operation. Right, 6 minus 0 is 6. Bringing down that decimal, making sure my decimals all line up. 6 minus 2 is 4, and 5 minus 3 is 2. So a nice easy one with no regrouping. Hopefully you've done really well with your starter, and let's have a look at today. Right, so our big question says, is this always, sometimes, or never? Alex says, if I split a shape into 4 parts, I have split it into quarters. Do you agree or disagree? So you can pause the video now and have a little think and have a read over that question again and decide, if I split anything into 4, for example, I have a box and I'm going to split it into 4. These are called quarters. This one little piece here. Would you say that that is a quarter? So have a think. Right, and your answer would be sometimes, all right? Because in order for it to be a quarter, each part has to be equal. So when we're looking with fractions, we're talking about equal, okay? They have to be equal in size. So these are not identically equal in size, all right? So these would not be called quarters. However, if I took a shape and I equally divided them into 4 sections, they would be called quarters. So hopefully you answered sometimes, all right? And if you didn't answer sometimes, you've understood why. Right, so let's go quickly recap the vocabulary. We have been talking about this vocabulary in the past. We have actually done this particular lesson, but we're going to be making sure that we're really understanding fractions and that we are applying our knowledge in our quizzes. So let's quickly whiz through. So what is a fraction representing? A fraction is representing part of a whole. It's not a whole, it is a section of the whole part, okay? What are the two numbers called? Right, so here is our top number and our bottom number. We call the top number the numerator and the bottom number the denominator. Okay, and those are just terms you're going to have to know because you're going to be asked that in future. So numerator is the top number and denominator is the bottom. What does the numerator tell us? The numerator simply tells us how many equal parts my shape or my pie or my group has been divided into. And the denominator tells me how many pieces I have actually cut it into. So for example, I have this shape here and I have got 5 equal parts, okay? If I count each of these triangles, I have 5 of them, and that would tell me the bottom number, which is the denominator. So the bottom number tells me how many equal parts I have divided up into, and the top number tells me how many I've shaded or how many I've got or eaten or collected, okay, whatever the question is asking. So the 4 green parts represent the top number, the numerator. Right, so when we're looking at equivalent fractions, we are looking at fractions that are equal to one another. For example, if I had to take a half, okay, that is a certain amount of space. Okay, that's not very neat, but you can see there that rectangle is a half if I had to shade that, okay? So that's worth a half. And I want to find another fraction that's equal to a half. Now, if I go further down, I can say that here I've got quarters. And how many quarters do I need in order to make a half? I have 2 of them, 1 and 2. So I've got a half is equal to 2 quarters. And can you see if you can find another fraction that is equal to a half and 2 quarters? Great, hopefully you've realized that 3 sixes, I've got the sixes here, there's 3 6. So put my 6 down at the bottom and I have 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. 3 6 is also equal to a half, which is also equal to 2 quarters. It's taking up the same amount of space. And can you find another one? Super job. Hopefully you said 4 eighths. Okay, here are my 8s. I've got exactly the same amount of space and I've got 4 of them. So I've got 4 eighths. And there's one more one on this fraction wall that also would be equal to all of these. Great job. Hopefully 5 tenths. Okay, running out of space here, but 5 tenths. And all those have exactly the same amount of space, okay? All right, they are all equal to one another. If I had to have a pizza, say these were pizzas, and I cut them into a half, that would be the same amount as eating 2 quarters, which would be the same amount as eating 3 sixths, which would be the same amount as eating 4 eighths, and the same amount as eating 5 tenths. I've eaten the same amount, there's no difference. So all these fractions are equal to one another, even though they have different numbers. Right, so equivalent fractions take up the same amount of space like we saw earlier with the halves, but they are cut into different sized pieces. You would have noticed that the bigger the number got at the bottom, the smaller the piece was getting. Okay, so the trick is when we're finding equivalent fractions, that whatever we do to the one number, we must do to the other number. So when I'm making an equivalent fraction, I'm going to go and look at what they've given me. And I'm going to see, right, I've got 2 quarters and I have a half here. And I'm trying to find out this missing number at the top. So I have to now look at what direction I'm moving in with the most amount of information they've given me. So if I have a look here and I go from 2 I've got nothing. Okay, and I'm going to put an arrow here because the arrow is going to help me as to what direction I'm moving in. If I say 4 to 2, right, I've got a bit more information here. So I'm going to start with this one. And I'm going to say, what do I do to the 4 to get to? And that's why it's very important that I'm putting this arrow, because it's showing me into which direction I am working in, okay? Because if I did it the other way, it's going to affect this answer at the top. So it's very important that I put the arrow to show which direction I'm moving in. I'm going from the 4. What am I doing to get to? And I'm dividing it by 2. Now, whatever I do to the one number, I must do to the other number. So I've also got to divide it by 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, all right, so there, 2/4, if I look at a shaded diagram, 2/4, I have eaten or shaded the same amount as a half. Okay, so 2/4 there, 2/4 and a half, same amount, no different. Right, so this is just your steps, okay? So first of all, you've got to see which section gives you the most information, all right? Now, if I'm going from 5, I've got a question mark, so I'm not going to use that one, but I've got 3 and I've got 9, so I'm going to put my arrow, and you can see there my arrow is going in the direction of where I'm moving and working out, and I'm going to multiply by 3. So I'm going to say 3 times 3 is 9. So to work out the bottom number, I am then going to say 5 times 3 is 15. And therefore, that's how I get my equivalent fraction, okay? And so 3/5 is equal to 9/15. Right, so let's see if we can have a look at these together, and then we are going to answer this. You're going to try this one on your own. Okay, so here's an opportunity for you to be working them out and seeing if you're understanding this and not just watching the video and hearing the answers and then not applying your skills. So if you're feeling quite confident that you're having an understanding of what's going on, then what I suggest you do is you can pause the video now, do the answers, and then come back and then hear if you got it correct. Right, so let's do this first one together for those of you who just need a little bit of extra practice. So I've got a half, which is also equal to 2/4, and I'm wanting to work out what is the equivalent fraction to those. Okay, so first of all, I've got to decide what is my bottom number going to be here. And my bottom number, if you have a look, has got 6. I've got 6 parts that it's been cut into. Okay, and how many have I eaten? 1, 2, 3, or I've got left over, should I say? 3 6s. Okay. And therefore, I've got a half is equal to 2/4 is equal to 3/6 because I've eaten the same amount, okay? I've eaten the exact same amount, right? So there's no difference. Right, let's have a look now at this one here. You can also use a bar model. So if you'd like to pause the video now and see if you can give it a go, what would this one piece be equal to? Okay, what would A be? What is the fraction of A? What would the fraction of B? All right, let's see how you did. Right, first of all, this shaded part, I have one piece that has been shaded out of how many? 1, 2, 3. So I can write 3. And here for B, I've got 2 parts that have been shaded out of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And therefore, they are equal. Okay, I've had the same amount that I've shaded. And so you can also do it as a bar model. So you can make a bar and you can divide it up. Okay, so those are just some ways that you can then show your understanding of equivalent fractions. Right, so just a reminder to find the equivalent fraction, whatever you do to one number, you need to do to the other number. So whatever you do to the numerator, you need to do to the denominator and vice versa. So see if you can have a go at those questions now. All right, there are 4 for you to do. All right, and see if you can work out the numbers that are missing and see what are you doing. So on your piece of paper now, go and write these 4 fractions out, practice them. Don't just watch the video. Do these 4 questions so that you can see where you're going wrong, so you can learn from your mistake before you do the quizzes. Okay, hopefully you've managed to do those 4. If you haven't, make sure that you pause the video and do them, okay? So I first look at how much information I have. I've got nothing here because that's what I'm trying to find out. So I'm going to use my top numbers and I'm going to draw my arrow because I'm going from the 3 to the 1. So what did I do to the 3 to get 1? I divided it by 3. And so whatever I do to the one number, I must do to the other number. So I'm going to say 9 divided by 3 is 3. And here is why your tables are so important, okay? If you do not know that 3 divided by 3 is 1 or 9 divided by 3 is 3, then you need to be practicing those timetables every single day for at least 15 minutes. Right, this one over here, I'm going to look at the information. I'm going to look for the most information. So I'm going to say, right, put my arrow there. What did I do to 3 to get 9? I times it by 3. So I'm going to say 2 times 3 is going to be 6. So my answer is 6. Right, this one, here we go. I've got the most information at the bottom here. So I'm going to say, what did I do to 20 to get 4? And this is how I'm saying it in my head. What did I do to 20 to get 4? If it's going from big to small, then I'm going to be dividing. And I'm going to be dividing by 5. So whatever I do to the one number, I must do to the other number. And this is how I would work it out as well, okay? I'd draw the arrows. I'd write divide by 5, and I'd draw the arrow. I'd write divide by 5, and now I say 5 divided by 5 is 1. Okay, I'm not skipping any steps as a teacher or as an adult. I'm making sure that I'm getting that answer correct. Right, here's the most information. So what am I doing? From 25 to get 1. Again, I'm saying these things. I'd be saying it in my head, not out loud, but I'd be saying them in my head when I'm having to work it out. Okay, I'm not just going to look at it and go, that's the answer. I'm going to make sure that I get the answer by working it out and showing all my working out. So I've got my arrow. Now I'm saying what I do to 25 to get 1. I'm going from big to small. So I need to divide. And I need to divide it by itself, okay? And then if you wanted to, you could do the inverse to check. So 1 times 25 is 25. Right, so whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other. It has to be fair. So I'm going to divide this by 25. And how many groups of 25 can go into 100? 4. All right, hopefully this is making some sense now. If not, I suggest you rewind the video and watch this again because these are going to be in your quiz today. Right, see if you can now have a little go at this one. Which fraction is the odd one out? I've got bottom numbers that are all different, okay? And I've got to decide which one of these fractions is not equivalent. So you can pause the video now and have a go. Right, so your one that's going to be your odd one out would be your 6/9. Because I can times it by 2 to give me 12, okay? And so I could just times 4 by 2 to also give me, and so that will also give me 8, okay? So my 6/9 would be my odd one out because this 9, although I could probably work out an equivalent fraction if I carried on, but this one would not be able to go in. And so therefore, 6/9 is going to be my odd one out. Right, have a go at these questions. If you're thinking that you've really understood this, I suggest you do these last 5 questions quickly on your piece of paper, and then you can log on to Teams and you can start doing the questions that are on Teams, okay? Please don't skip over this. Please do these 5 questions. So make sure that you've really understood equivalent fractions, and then you can move on to the questions. So pause the video now, everyone, and have a go. Okay, so let's look at the answers. Right, I'm going from 12 to 3, so I'm going from big to small, so I'm going to be dividing. I'm dividing by 4. So whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other number, and I'm going to have 1. 6 to 12, I'm going dividing because I'm going from big to small, and I'm dividing it by 3. So whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other, and that is going to be 2. And I've got 6 to 12, so I'm going to be dividing it by 6. Whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other number, and that's going to be 1. Okay? Right. True or false? Are these two fractions equivalent? Right. First of all, I'm going to work it out. I'm going to set it up like this, and I'm going to say, right, first of all, How many times did I go? 3 times what gives me 9? 3 times 3. So whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other. So 2 times 3 is 2 times 3, 8. No, it is not. So that is going to be false. Right, and the next one, set it out. 2/5 and 4/10. Right, what I do to 5 to get the 10, I times it by 2. What I do to 2 to get 4, I times it by 2. And now I can see if it's correct. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 2 is 4. So this is going to be true. Right, hopefully you really understood equivalent fractions. If you need a few more bit of practice, you can then just watch the next few slides. Those of you who are feeling quite confident with equivalent fractions, understanding that equivalent means equal, has even got that word equal, kind of sounds like it has that word equal in it. You can then log on to Teams and you can do the 10 questions that have been set out for you. And those children who just need a bit of extra input, let's go through this one more time so that you can really make sure that you are confident with your equivalent fractions before you take the quiz. So good luck to those children who are going to log on to Teams now. And for the rest of you, let's quickly go over a few more just so that you can be 100% secure and happy with your equivalent fractions. Right, so first of all, we're going to write our steps to success. Okay, so let's look at this first. Right, if you pause the video now, can you quickly write on your piece of paper, what are your steps to success? What do you need to do? Okay, so our first step is obviously going to be look at the numbers, all right? So what that means is if I have these fractions here, I'm going to look at the numbers and see, right, which direction am I going to be moving in? I'm going to be looking at the 12 and the 4 because that has got the most information, okay? So I'm going to look at the numbers, I'm going to decide which ones I'm going to be looking at. I'm looking at the 12 and the 4. Right, then I'm going to have my arrows. Draw arrows, show the direction I am moving in. This is very important because if I go in the wrong direction, I'm not going to get it right. Okay, so draw arrows to show direction. And then are you timesing or are you dividing? Okay, you need to decide on that. Make this a little bit smaller, otherwise it's not going to fit. Right. Oh, stop. No, come bigger. Oh, teeny tiny. Okay. Right, once you've decided if you're timesing or dividing, and we're going to be looking at ours, we're saying 12 to get to 4. I'm going from big to small, so I need to divide. Whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other. So I'm going to say, whatever I do to the one number, I do to the other number. Okay, very important. So now that I've said divide that by 3, I need to say 3 divide by 3, and that's going to give me 1. Okay, so if you want to write these steps to success down on your piece of paper so that you are making sure that if you're getting to a question and you're not sure what to do, you can look at your steps to success to answer it. Okay, see if you can use now those steps to success to answer this one on your own. So pause the video and have a go. Right, so we're first going to look at the numbers and we decide which ones are we going to choose. Right, I've got 2 and I've got 8 and I've got 8 and I've got nothing. So I'm going to go from 2 to 8. So I'm going to draw my arrows to show my direction. And let me use a different color here so that we're not doubling up, so that you can clearly see. Right, I've looked at the numbers and I've drawn my arrows. Okay, I'm using my steps to success. You should be using your steps to success as well. All right, so that when you do get to a problem, then you know how to figure out how to answer it. Right, now, am I timesing or dividing? I'm going from small to big. So if I'm going from small to big, I'm going to be timesing. And what have I done to the 2 to get 8? I've times it by 4. It is only timesing and dividing as well. It's not plussing and minusing. It's only timesing and dividing. So whatever I've done that, and now whatever I do to the one number, I need to do to the other number. So I'm going to say times 4. And 8 times 4 is 32. Okay, and then I feel quite happy I've used my step to success, and that is the most important. Right, this is just an example as well. If you would like to pause the video and have a little read through, it's exactly what we've been looking at. It's just showing you how to find an equivalent fraction. So if you'd like to use this resource to help you, however, it's just there as an extra and explaining what an equivalent fraction is. Okay, it's a lot that we've already gone through in the lesson, so there's nothing scary or new. Right, so those of you who have now, once you're feeling quite confident about this, you can log onto Teams and do your quiz. And those of you who are struggling to get onto Teams, we're going to go on to the work on the next slide. If you would like, there's a bit of an extra fun activity for you to do on BBC Bitesize, where they have some questions and you can also do some quizzes online. So good luck. I hope it goes well, and I will see you back later. So for those children who don't have Teams, here is your questions. Right, so you are just working out the equivalent fractions to 2/3, okay? So you're saying 2/3. So again, look at the information. So you're going from 3 to 9. So you're going to say 3 times what gives you 9, 3 times 3. So whatever you use the one number, you need to use the other number. And then you're going to say 3 times what gives you 18. So whatever you use the one number, you must use the other number, okay? You could also use the 9. So you could say 9 times 2 gives you 18. So whatever you do to 9, you need to do to this top number that you would have worked out using this fraction here. All right, so go and have a go at working out those equivalent fractions. And then at the bottom here, which one is not equivalent to the others? So which one is the odd one out here? So pause the video now and have a go, and then I'll give you the answers afterwards. So please make sure that you're setting out this work on your piece of paper. And once you're done, you can mark it and send your work to year 5 at the palmeracademy.com email address. Good luck. Fantastic, guys. I really hope that that made some sense and you really enjoyed working out the equivalent fractions. Here are the answers. So you would have said 2 times 3 gives me 9. So 2 times 3 is going to be 6. And then you could have either gone 3 times what gives you 18, which is times it by 6. So you would have gone 2 times 6, which is 12. You could also have said 9 times 2 is 18. So 6 times 2 is going to be 12. Remember, these are all equivalent fractions, which means they're the equal amount of space, the same amount of space. Doesn't matter that they've got different numbers. Right, so those are your answers. You can see how you did. And at the bottom here, the odd one out would have been 60 over 100. So if you need to pause the video at any time, please make sure that you do that. Take a picture of your work, send it to year 5 at thepalmeracademy.com if you don't have Teams. So well done, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day of learning, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.